I'm Toby Zaccoli, was born and raised in San Diego, California. Graduated from Harvard University in 2018, former football player there. Now work at Goldman Sachs, I'm an analyst, been there for about 2 years. And why should people listen to me? Based off my life experiences, I'm 23, and my unique background, my unique life experience, I just have certain opinions, I have ways that I go about life, ways that I think about life that I'm open to share. And as human beings, we all have unique experiences, unique ideals that we shouldn't keep to ourselves. So I'm glad we can get on this podcast and I'm able to share some of my ideas and some of the things I think about with the world.
So just a quick backstory, kind of like my backstory. Toby, you're my cousin and everything. And I mean, we've had countless, conversations, deep conversations. You helped me get into college, really. And you recently hit me up and you wanted to talk about, I guess, if I were to make one sentence, talk about how controlling our own behaviors can, in some cases, control people's perceptions of us.
Right.
And I was definitely intrigued to that conversation just because I think, we live in a society, of course, where people are always, worried about what other people think and the perceptions of them. And normally we feel like, oh, you should never care about what people think. But at the same time, I feel like there's this kind of dilemma because sometimes people are out of control. Sometimes people's behavior is crazy. And just because you shouldn't care what people think doesn't mean you should be out of control and be an asshole all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So I want to ask you first, do you think, because you don't have to agree with me, but do you think people should care about what other people think?
This is something, and the reason why this topic came to mind is because me and my little brother were talking about it last week, and me and my brother have deep conversations all the time, so it kind of tore off on a tangent from other specific conversation. Yeah. But, it's interesting. I grew up believing that, no, you shouldn't care what other people think about you. You should get to a place where you're so comfortable with who you are that, you just do you. And that's kind of the popular opinion now. That's what you're going to see in social media. That's what people are going to preach to you, which is not a bad thing in and of itself. But I think you need to take it to another, you have to unpack that even more. It's in the sense that you can't just not care what people think about you, because your behaviors, what you're putting out into the world, is what other people are perceiving and what other people are using to make opinions about you. So other people's opinions about you is essentially feedback. That's what you're putting out there, whether you want to or not, whether it's intentional or not, that's what you're putting out there. So let's say you feel like you're the best, you're a great human being, you're the best person in the world, but everybody thinks you're an asshole. Yeah. Well, that's the legacy you're leaving. You're an asshole. You could think you're the coolest person in the world. You could think you were the nicest person in the world, but if everybody around you thinks that you're selfish, or everybody around you perceives you to be selfish or not to care about anybody, that's what you're putting out there. That's the influence you're having.
That's the impact you're having.
That's the impact you're having.
Right.
So from that perspective, you should care what other people think about you, because it's giving you feedback about yourself, and it's giving you, and you can use that, unpack that, and learn how to, actually influence the world the way you want to. So I think, to me, that's the most important thing. Going through life, I feel like, if you're asking me, that's how you can measure somebody. Well, you can't really measure somebody's life, but if there was a way, that'd be the way, in terms of how are you impacting others. Yeah. So that's kind of where that comes from when I say, yeah, you should care what other people think about you.
That's a great answer. I couldn't have said that better myself. No, I completely agree, though. You do have to care in a sense, just because, like you said, it's feedback. Because we could be thinking we're the best person in the world, but we have these tendencies that we don't even know. You know what I'm saying? And it's it's rubbing people the wrong way, justifiably. Yeah. And then I like what you said. It's really about the legacy that you're leaving. And I think we already knew that this conversation was going to tend towards Kobe Bryant in some type of.
Of course.
I want to be able to leave a legacy and leave, a message like Kobe, And it's like, I'm not saying Kobe walked around caring what people think, but like he did control his behavior and he had healthy habits with work ethic, with, you know, confidence and like his self image and all that different stuff. And it's like, and you could see it, you know, and like, I don't know, I think that that's really something to model after. I never really like, before this conversation, I never really thought about like, because I was one of those people where it's like, you don't care what people think, but you have to care. I agree.
You do have to care. And yeah, you know, R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. You know, we lost a superhero last Sunday, and yeah, like you have to be careful too because you know life is complex. There's no black or white answer. It's a gray area. So in the sense that you should care, there's also parts of that you shouldn't care about. You should be yourself. You know, you shouldn't. You know, the feedback you put out on the world. You should. I think everybody has a certain way they want other people to view them. And I think if you don't have that way, you're lying to yourself because as a human being, you want people to see you, at least as you're seeing yourself.
Be a role model, an example.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people don't care about that, but they do have a certain way that they think others view them. And a lot of times, if that doesn't match up, they at least have a way that they want others to view them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A goal, right? So, but I mean, that shouldn't detract from you being yourself. That doesn't mean like for example, with Kobe Bryant, not everybody, you can't look at Kobe and say you want to have his type of legacy and everything like that. And because of that, you're just going to forget everything you're doing and just follow his exact path, become a basketball player and try to that might just not be you. You know what I'm saying? But there are things that he did, the way he carried himself, the way he talked to people, the way he related to people, his work ethic. There's certain things that you can emulate from him. You know, when you look at greats like that, a lot of times, even if you didn't know who Kobe Bryant was, he could walk into a room and you kind of just feel there's something different about those type of people.
Exactly.
You know, that's what I was talking to my little brother about, actually. You know, there's something different about those type of people. And a lot of times you kind of we always attach very vague terms to that. Like, oh, they just have that it factor.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're different. You know, they're special. Just like really, a lot of times we look up to those people, but it's hard to, and like, how do you emulate it factors? How do you emulate different? How do you emulate special? Like a lot of times it's just viewed as, oh, you're either born with it or not, which, you know, to a certain extent, I think you are. But I also feel like you can kind of break down the behaviors of those type of people and pick up certain things that they're doing and the ways that they relate to people, the ways that they speak, and the ways that they, you know, carry themselves, and you can start to practice that. And I feel like that's a very actionable way to emulate somebody that you admire or one of your role models.
So staying true to yourself, but then also emulating the practical,
you
know, the practical things that you need to change in your life.
Yeah, like your passions are your passions. What you like to do is what you like to do, and that's part of yourself. You know, what's important to you is what's important to you. That's part of who you are, and that, you know, you have the freedom to change that if you want to, but you shouldn't feel like you have to, you know, be somebody else. But there are practical things like you can learn to be a better speaker. You can learn to have more empathy for others, things like that. And you can pick up certain things which aren't really going to distract you, aren't going to take who you are away from who you are, but instead actually just almost enhance who you are.
Right.
You know, so.
I feel that. So I wanted to ask, do you think that, I mean, kind of like tying back into controlling our behaviors and controlling how people perceive us, do you think that there's a lack of accountability that people have for their own like behaviors, like just in like modern day 2020?
Yeah, I think in the world we live in now, yes and no. I think we live in a culture right now that's very PC, like politically correct.
Got you.
And there are certain things that you can get away with now and certain things you can't get away with now because of that.
Right. No, I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that's a whole nother topic. I won't dig too deep into that, but I mean, generally, I feel like people, for the most part, don't necessarily like taking accountability for their behaviors. They'd rather that's not a comfortable thing for people to do, and I think it comes with maturity for you to be able to do that and take responsibility for your actions or your behaviors and what you're putting out into the world.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily comfortable for most people to do that. It's not comfortable for people to look in the mirror and be like, well, you're the reason why you're in this situation, or like, it's your fault that other people don't like you.
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy for you to say, oh, it's just on them. Like, it's that's their problem. I'm not going to worry about it. But there could be something that you're doing to influence them. Most likely there probably is, that you could change if you were willing to look in the mirror and take that accountability. But it's hard, It's very hard. It's not a comfortable thing to do.
I was going to say, I think when we're talking about like the whole it factor thing,
yeah,
I think the name I have for that, what it is a concept of like self-mastery.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my goals in life. I want to complete self-mastery. Now, if that's possible or not, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. But it's like, I feel like even just always having that as a goal is just healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, I don't think Kobe was like a perfect person and never, but it's just like, when it came to his work, when it came to his art, when it came to what, he was doing with his hands, it's like, I feel like that shows self-mastery. Like, you feel me? So my question is like, is self-mastery a life goal that we should all have? And like, is that how we're going to be able, like us chasing after that goal, is that how we're going to be able to control our behaviors and like really be disciplined?
Yeah. Self-mastery, that's something that, if you're asking me, I don't believe that we actually ever really achieve. As we grow, we're constantly changing. We have new experiences that influence the way we look at the world, influence the way we go about our lives. So I feel like we're constantly learning about ourselves. I think it's a constant journey.
Yeah.
And, there are some people that are more in tune with themselves and their emotions and just who they are than others, for sure. But it's definitely a daily practice, I think. And it's a journey. It's something that I think the goal would be to be intentional about learning about yourself, to be self-aware and just in tune with how different situations or different things affect you, and just being in tune with your behaviors in certain situations, so where you want to make those changes, things you want to improve on, things like that. So I think if you're asking me, self-mastery is more, it's not necessarily a life goal as to say like by 30 years old, I want to be a master of myself, be completely in tune with who I am, because I don't know if we could ever actually do that. But I think it's more of a goal to say like, okay, this year, I want to make sure that each day I'm intentionally learning about myself and taking strides to becoming more self-aware. Yeah. I think that's more of a reasonable goal.
So then my question would be, we start to control our behaviors. We're good at that. You know what I'm saying? Like we have good habits, but there's still those people who perceive us the same way as we were before. You know what I'm saying? So like, what do you do then?
Yeah.
Personally.
See, that's the thing, right? So yeah, you're changing your habits and people still perceive you the same way. Honestly, so it depends. Like if you are behaving differently consistently and you believe you're putting out something different into the world and people are still perceiving you the same way, that could be a cause of a certain unconscious bias that they have.
Right.
Things that are out of your control, and there are going to be things that are out of your control that you can't, you can't completely control other people's opinions about yourself, but you can influence what their opinions would be to a certain extent. And it's more important, let's say you're in a corporate setting, you're in a workplace, and obviously you want your boss or your colleagues to perceive you to perceive you in a good light, right?
Right.
So in that case, it makes sense to continue to work and strive to, if colleagues are still perceiving you in a bad light, it's in your best interest to figure out how to turn that around, right? But if it's just, just another person on the street and they're not really somebody that's important to you, not family or somebody that you care for their opinion, the opinions of others, like I was saying before, is more just feedback for yourself. So if you're changing your behaviors and you're getting changes from other people, but certain people, they're not, their opinions of you are not changing or not being influenced, it's kind of up to you. It depends on who that person is to whether you care or not,
Right.
But yeah, like that, like I said, it's a complex.
No, I feel that.
It's a complex situation, and it's more like when I'm saying that you should care about what other people think about you, it's more so stemming from, like I was saying before, it's more so stemming from getting that feedback so that you can make sure that what you're putting out into the world is what you want to actually put out there. Self-critique, yeah, exactly. That's how I would look at it from. It's not so like you can get validation from others, because that's a whole nother conversation, but that's a dangerous place to go into if you're looking for others for your self-validation, because like we were just talking about, there's certain things you can't control.
You got to know what you can control, what you can't.
And what you can't control, right?
That's what you can control.
Exactly. There's some people that their minds are just not going to change about you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. So what's any last message you have? Any about a topic on here? Just what do you think that the youth or just anybody watching, what do you want them to really gain from all of this?
What I want them to gain is that, it's from this conversation that you can't say, not to take an ideal, and in this conversation we talked about not caring about what others think about you, but to not take an ideal like that's kind of pushed through society or social media, to not just take it for what it is, but to really think about it for yourself or come up with your own opinion about it. Because like we were talking about today, there are positive things that can come from just, receiving that feedback from others.
Yeah.
And if you take don't care what others think about you as, or I'm just going to block out everybody's opinions about me, I'm just going to do me, you're shortchanging yourself. There are ways you can improve as a human being that you're not going to really look at.
Right,
you're not really going to look at yourself, and you're not really going to get that self-critique. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's not comfortable, like we were saying, looking in the mirror, it's not a comfortable thing to do. But, to be your best person, it's necessary. And it's something that I believe greats like Kobe Bryant did. And I'm sure there was an excerpt, not an excerpt, but Dwayne Wade was talking about how one time Kobe went to him, and during the finals, Kobe asked Dwayne Wade how to deal with the Celtics defense. And the way I look at that is just he was humble enough he understood that, he didn't have all the answers. And it's the same conversation that he went to somebody else and kind of got that critique of those answers to deal with the certain situation he was dealing with. So it's a little bit different here, but it's the same way. You're wondering why your being
things
perceived,
aren't working.
or things aren't working, you're being perceived a certain way. So you have to be in tune with that. You have to go out and you have to be able to take a closer look at, why other people are perceiving you a certain way, and then be able to make those changes. So yeah, I guess that would be the last message I would leave people with is just,
What I'm hearing is control what you can control.
control what you can control, and, I guess control what you can control, leave the rest to God.
Amen.
Yeah. All right.
That's good, bro.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay, cool, bro. Nice.
Perfect.
All right. Well, hopefully we can do something with that.
I know we will. That was great.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you see in here, visit www.un-associated.com for more.